Since baseball's beginnings, Philadelphia has played a significant role in the history of the sport. The Athletic Baseball Club of Philadelphia formed in 1859. By the mid-1860s, the club was competitive with many of the New York clubs, and in 1871, the Athletic won the first championship of a professional league, commonly known as the National Association. So, of course, the Athletic were one of the founding members of the National League in 1876. Unfortunately, the Athletic of 1876 had been poached by William Hulbert of the Chicago White Stockings, currently known as the Chicago Cubs. Without its star players, the team was no longer profitable. As a result, the team couldn't afford to make its final Western road trip in the inaugural season of the National League. And for this, the league expelled the Athletic. It would not be until 1883 that Philadelphia will once again make an appearance in the National League. But that didn't mean that professional baseball disappeared altogether in Philadelphia. Stay tuned and I'll explain. Philadelphia Baseball History presents the Philadelphia Athletics of the American Association. It's hard to understand why it took so long for Philadelphia to make its reappearance in the National League. In the late 19th century, Philadelphia was the second biggest city in the United States. Indeed, for a brief time in the mid-1870s, Philadelphia bred 3 professional teams in the same league, the National Association. That included the Philadelphia White Stockings, who employed pitcher Candy Cummings, who many believe invented the curveball. In addition to the Athletic, the other team that played in Philadelphia was the Philadelphia Centennials. They were formed in 1875 in preparation for the nation's centennial in 1876. Unfortunately, the Centennials folded after playing around 20 games. They weren't around long enough to celebrate the nation's centennial. So what happened to professional baseball before the Phillies came into being? Well, the fact is, another professional team formed in Philadelphia before the Phillies existed. In 1883, that initial Phillies team was so bad that owner Al Reach called upon Harry Wright to come in and manage the team. Wright had to go back to the fundamentals, like teaching players to charge a ground ball instead of sitting on their heels and waiting for it to come to them. Wright, of course, is known for founding the first professional team, the Cincinnati Red Stockings, in 1869. And contrary to popular belief, the Cincinnati Reds of today do not have a direct connection to the 1869 team. Believe it or not, the Atlanta Braves really have a more direct connection to the 1869 Cincinnati Red Stockings. Meanwhile, in 1883, the other professional team in Philadelphia was winning its league's pennant. That team was the Philadelphia Athletics of the American Association. The Athletics, who formed in 1880, took their name from the Athletic Baseball Club of Philadelphia that existed earlier, but it was not the same organization. Like many early professional teams, the Athletics made its money off of barnstorming. That means that they would travel from city to city, playing the best amateur team in the city and charging money for tickets to watch the games. In 1881, the Philadelphia Athletics joined 5 other cities, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, Cincinnati, and Louisville, to create the American Association. The American Association began play in the season of 1882. Now, these cities were pejoratively known as river cities. That means they were mostly blue-collar cities when compared to the highbrow cities of the East Coast. And yes, technically Philadelphia is located between 2 rivers, the Delaware and the Schuylkill, but as the second largest city in the nation, it really didn't qualify as a river city. In actuality, Philadelphia was a financial and cultural hub of the nation. At any rate, the American Association decided to compete with the National League by attracting more blue-collar workers into its audience. The National League was seen as puritanical, meaning it had a policy of not playing games on Sunday and not allowing the sale of alcohol at its games. The American Association charged cheaper ticket prices and left it up to the individual teams to determine policies such as whether they would play games on Sunday or sell alcohol. Indeed, many of the teams that played in the American Association were owned by breweries or distilleries. This earned the league another pejorative nickname by the National League, and that was the Beer and Whiskey League. It was a nickname that the American Association embraced enthusiastically. Interestingly, the American Association is something of an inferiority complex. The league has been accepted as a major league among baseball historians, and 4 franchises of the current National League had their origins in the American Association: Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, the Dodgers, and St. Louis. The Pittsburgh Alleghenies, now known as the Pirates, jumped to the National League in 1887. Cincinnati and the current Dodgers team joined Pittsburgh in 1889, and St. Louis became part of the National League after the American Association folded in 1891. Today, the Cardinals organization considers that its history began when it joined the National League in 1891, and not when it started off as the St. Louis Brown Stockings in the American Association. Likewise, it's very difficult for a player who spent most of his career in the American Association to make the Hall of Fame. Take Harry Stovey, for example. Stovey played for the Worcester Ruby Legs from 1880 through 1882. They were in the National League. In 1883, Stovey returned to his hometown of Philadelphia to join the Athletics of the American Association. Stovey played a huge role in the Athletics winning the pennant that year. In 1883, Stovey led the leagues in runs, home runs, doubles, slugging percentage, and total bases. In fact, Stovey scored the winning run on the September 28, 1883 game against Louisville that gave the Philadelphia Athletics the pennant. In the 10th inning, Stovey hit a single and stole second, moved up to third, and then scored from third on an infield fly, giving the Athletics the walk-off run. Stovey spent 7 years in the American Association with the Athletics, leading the league in home runs 5 times, in hits twice, and once in batting average. In 1890, Stovey played for Boston of the Players League. His .299 batting average and league-leading 97 stolen bases helped Boston win the Players League pennant that year. Stovey played 3 more years with the National League. He was the first player to reach 100 career Major League home runs. In fact, Harry Stovey held the Major League record for career home runs with 122 until 1895. That's when Roger Connor passed him with 138. That record stood until Babe Ruth broke it in 1921. Still, Harry Stovey was largely ignored for Hall of Fame induction until 2015. That year, he was considered by the Pre-Integration Committee. The Pre-Integration Committee was part of the Eras Committee that replaced the old Veterans Committee to consider Hall of Fame induction for players who were not voted in by the baseball writers. They included the Pre-Integration Committee, the Golden Years Committee, and the Modern Baseball Committee. Each winner of the committees would rotate. In 2015, Stovey fell 4 votes short of the required 75% to reach Hall of Fame induction. As for the Athletics, in their 9 years in existence in the American Association, they won 633 games and lost 564, for a winning percentage of .529. The year 1890 saw the end of the Athletics' run, however. That year, John Montgomery Ward convinced a number of financial backers to help him start a third competing major league. It was called the Players League. It attracted many star players through its elimination of the hated reserve clause. But 3 competing major leagues proved too much. That year, Philadelphia once again saw 3 professional baseball teams, but they were each in different leagues. There was the Phillies of the National League, the Athletics of the American Association, and the Quakers of the Players League. The Athletics, unfortunately, did not make it into the end of the season. Likewise, the Players League collapsed after 1 season. The Philadelphia Quakers attempted to return as a successful franchise, changing their name to the Athletics and joining the American Association in 1891. However, the American Association could not recover from the financial damage that had been caused by the 1890 season. The entire league folded at the end of the 1891 season. But by that time, the Phillies, who were still managed by Harry Wright, had become a competitive organization. From 1892 through 1895, the Phillies were the only team in history who could boast all 3 of their outfielders who became eventual Hall of Fame inductees. They were Ed Delahanty, Sam Thompson, and Slidin' Billy Hamilton. However, after the 1883 pennant-winning Philadelphia Athletics, the city would have to wait about another 20 years until it experienced another pennant-winning team. And that was a very different Philadelphia Athletics, this time led by Connie Mack of the American League in 1902. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. If you have any ideas for topics that we can cover in the future, please let us know in the comments below. We have new t-shirt designs, including the Philadelphia Athletics and Harry Stovey of the American Association. And don't forget to show your pride as you protect your health and that of your family. We now have masks available in our merch store. We'll have a link in the description box below. If you would like to see more of these videos, please consider becoming a patron through Patreon. Again, we'll have a link in the description box below.